Well, Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to I guess technically the second episode of We Watch Shudder in the new year, but our first new review episode of the new year 2023. My name is JD. Guys, who do you think is still with me in 2023? Or is she still with me? Is it somebody else? What's going on? I'm going to ask the question. We're going to find out together, like we always do, who is here with me.
It's still Michelle.
Ah, Christ! It's still Michelle. God,
I almost said it's Kevin.
We couldn't get somebody else here, guys. Oh wait, I'm guys.
No one else wanted the job. We put out multiple listings, but until someone has been located, I will remain.
She tried really, really, really hard to replace herself, but nobody's interested in the position, and she's far too committed to the joke. So here we are. Interesting things happening at the end of the year for our friends and namesakes over at Shudder that we actually were kind of late to the party on. Party is not the way I should be describing it at all, but that was the metaphor that came to mind right away. Is actually kind of interesting. Out of the blue one day, we thought we were so happy and so excited when Mr. Craig Engler, who was the GM of Shudder, followed us on Twitter. We just thought that was so cool. It's like this guy, and then maybe about 2 weeks ago, I discovered, Craig doesn't follow us on Twitter anymore. What did we do? And then we found out that there was
you sent death threats to Craig Engler for ruining the end of Resurrection. JD has an FBI investigation going on against him.
So Craig Engler had to go into hiding because of me. No, there were some apparently some shakeups all across AMC networks, and some people were removed of their positions. And unfortunately, one of those people was Mr. Craig Engler, the former now GM of Shudder at AMC Networks. Craig was the the GM at Shudder for like 5 years, pretty much almost the entire existence of the platform. And so I just want to send a big shout out to that. What are the odds he's listening? It doesn't matter, guys.
But it's still good for people who are fans of Shudder to know.
Right, if you guys
who
are
was
on
really
Twitter,
responsible.
Shoot Craig a shout out. Let him know that you really appreciate everything that he spearheaded there for the service. And then also some things happening with the release schedule. Michelle, why don't you tell folks about what's going on there?
Yeah, so Shudder had some changes, and they will not be doing their usually weekly original or exclusive releases. So it looks like there are still 2 of them scheduled for later in January, but we will not be getting them weekly. So JD and I had to change our format a little bit. You're not getting rid of us that easily. We're still releasing weekly episodes.
We have far too much ego to quit the podcast just because Shudder is not releasing a new exclusive and or original title every week in January, because as it turns out, Shudder's got this whole library of movies, guys. Did you know that? It's like more than just they've been doing this for, as I said, like 5-6 years, and there's a whole library of original and exclusive titles. We have, in fact, looked at some of those titles back during Spooktober and in a couple other episodes. And so we said, well, what are we even worried about? Those weeks where they don't have a new release for us to talk about, let's go all the way back to the gall-darn beginning and just start working our way through the whole available exclusives and originals library. And so that's what we're going to do.
There are 112 of them.
I think you may be miscounting, Michelle. I think that might be associated with the same issue that made you think that Death Valley was the one we were doing this week and ended up, I'm pretty sure it's in the 200 and some. So we'll have to look and find out.
Okay.
It's a lot of.
There were a lot that we had covered already.
Well, see, that's the part that I'm not considering is I haven't tried to factor in how many we've already done. So I may just be totally out of my league here and just shooting from the hip for no reason or whatever metaphor. But
so
there's a lot of
how
them.
I do it every day.
Right, yeah. The one thing I think we can definitely agree on is there is a lot of them. Just any week that we don't have a new release, we're going to go back. This is something that I'm just throwing in here that I didn't even stop to talk to Michelle about, but I had the idea and I figured, what the heck. The plan is we're going to do them in order. If you go to Shudder on the website or on the app, if you go into the movies section, there's a specific category in movies for exclusives and originals, and you can sort it either chronologically by when they dropped on Shudder or alphabetically. We're going to do them chronologically in the order that they were released on Shudder. However, for those of you out there in Listenerland, if there is a Shudder archive title that we haven't talked about yet that you would like us to talk about on the show, hit us up. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. It's at We Watch Shudder on all those places. If you're still doing the email game, you can get us a mail at wewatchshudder.com. Drop us a line. Let us know what Shudder archive. It has to be an exclusive or original. That's the whole gimmick of the show right now. But if there's one that you would like to hear our thoughts on, drop us a line, and we'll be more than happy to just kind of throw that in when we have the opportunity. How do you feel about that, Michelle?
I feel fine about that.
Okay, I'm taking your word for it because once again I'm just watching the waveform and not actually looking at, because that was that was a really unpredictable. I feel fine about that. I feel like that could really be going either way.
No, I truly feel fine. I thought I just want to watch more movies.
You didn't ask me. I thought there was a real possibility she was about to say, well, fuck this podcast and just walk out of here.
I'm out. No, I'm
I'll
totally
do a
fine.
lot of
I'm
things,
just
but I
excited
will
to
not
watch stuff.
movies out of order. What are you, nuts?
I do watch 50 movies minimum every month, but I insist on watching them in release date order. Only those movies. If there's one I want to see and it drops on a streaming platform, but I've already watched movies that were released after that, I guess that's going to be February's problem.
Just going to be February's deal. Sorry,
no,
February.
I'm fine with out of order. That's cool by me. Yeah,
hit us up if there's something specific you'd like to hear us talk about. With that in mind, Michelle, what is the movie? If they sort everything chronologically and go all the way back to the beginning, what is the first movie they're going to find?
The first movie will be 2016's Therapy. It is a French film, and we are not reading the description for this one because it is the entire plot of the movie.
It's also really long. It's both
and goes
very
through
spoilery.
The entire plot of the movie.
Yeah, it's both very spoilery and very long, and we're not interested in either of those things.
No.
So we're just going to hit you with our spoiler-free thoughts on this one. Michelle, do you want to do the honors in 2023 and hit us with your spoiler-free thoughts on Therapy?
I would love to hit you with my spoiler-free thoughts. This movie did a few things that I like, but it did a lot of things that I did not like. So it's ultimately going to fall on the side of this is not a good experience, 1.25.
Yeah, guys, if you actually hop on over to the Shudder website and take a look at this movie, I do occasionally, as Michelle also does, will go and just kind of browse through some of the reviews there. And there's something that gets repeated there. Don't get me wrong, as with all of these titles, there are some people who really, really enjoyed this movie. Michelle didn't, and man, I didn't either. And the thing that keeps getting said over and over in a lot of these is this movie is a fucking mess. It just it doesn't have any idea exactly what it's trying to. I guess maybe that it either doesn't know for sure what it wants to be or it does, and either way, it's a problem. It's maybe trying to be too many things. I just, at no point was I ever completely taken in by it. There are little bits and pieces that I enjoy. It's certainly not the worst movie I've ever seen. But yeah, as an overall experience, this was a blah for me. I'm gonna go with a 1.5.
Okay, perfect. So that brings us to an average of whatever the difference between 0.25 and zero point 0.5 is, which I know you know.
Yeah, it's gonna be 1.375.
Thank you.
No problem.
It's math. I'm really good at math, but I just panic when I have to do it on the podcast.
Well,
I just can't.
I also I've done enough. There's something about quarters and fractions that are like 2 based. Like starting with half and then quarter and then 16ths and 30-seconds and anyway, it doesn't matter.
You're a fucking nerd, is what you're saying.
It's one of my incredibly mild, incredibly highly functioning autistic traits. Is all it is.
Also being a nerd.
Yes. Okay.
We're not discounting what I'm saying.
Fine. I like the subtle implication there that I would prefer people to think of me as having incredibly mild neurodivergent status than just being a dork. Because like
those two are not mutually exclusive, though.
Right, God forbid somebody think I'm a dork at 42.
Oh God! Oh no!
Anyway,
my life would be over.
As you can tell, we clearly don't really want to talk about therapy all that much, but that's what we're here to do. And there is quite often the situation where we feel like we're not going to have a lot to say, and then the episode ends up being forever anyway. So we should probably get into the spoiler section, huh, Michelle?
Yep, let's get into that spoiler section. Beep, beep, entering spoiler territory.
Yeah,
Put
guys,
on your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
If for some reason, after our thrilling sales pitch there, you want to go see this movie before we spoil it, go do that right now. Michelle, so this is the spoiler section now. One thing that we all know here, if we watch Shudder, is that there is this type of horror movie called found footage, and one of us tends to be a whole lot more of a fan of found footage, and that one of us is you. And this movie definitely has a lot of found footage elements involved. In fact, I'd say it's probably about 60 to 70% found footage. How did you feel about the way this movie blends found footage with like the framing story going around it?
I really I guess I'll do a quick summary in case, because I'm sure nobody heard our description and then went to watch it.
Yeah,
but this movie does do partial found footage, which is essentially this killer filming his kills. And then the other part is not found footage, very regular movie telling cinematic experience, which is police officers who are trying to solve this case. They are getting the videos mailed to them or whatever, however they found the cassette tapes, and slowly they are watching what we are watching and uncovering what is happening. The part that I liked the least about this movie was the found footage part. There were a couple things that made me jump, but people can talk too loudly when I'm not expecting them, and that can make me jump. That doesn't mean that person is a good horror movie. That just means that I am a jumpy person overall. There were a lot of things that just, it was way too loud for no apparent reason when
Agreed.
It's a found footage movie. There was music playing over it. I really did not like the found footage aspect. I did like the true crime bit. I did find that really interesting. I thought there were a couple reveals there that were cool, but then the reveals didn't make any sense and kind of like contradicted how neat they had been, because like when you break it down, no, it's not like a genius reveal. At the time it was like, oh cool, really? And then it's like, well, no, that fell apart immediately, so it just led to more disappointment.
Yes.
It was overall pretty boring too. I had a very hard time focusing just during the found footage part. I did find the police part more interesting, like I said, but
took me 4 attempts to actually get all the way through the movie. That's how unriveted I was.
Yeah, it was all the found footage parts. I just didn't care. You can't ask me to describe exactly what any of those people were about, what their stories really were. I can tell you a little bit about the people at the beginning who were like a teenager with her cousin or brother or whoever that guy is, and his girlfriend and the teenager's best friend. I know a little bit about their story, but that's when it falls apart. They just become fodder for death. And I didn't care when they died. I was way more interested in watching the police solve this mystery, but then the mystery sucks and doesn't actually wind up being good.
Yeah, that's interesting to me that that's the angle you take on it because weirdly, even though we both really didn't care for this film, the stuff that I enjoyed was more of some of the things that happen in the found footage elements. And while from a storytelling perspective, I agree with you. There's none of. I mean, okay, so there's this girl or this dude and his girlfriend, and then I think it's his niece and his niece's best friend, and then this other dude, and they're just all going on a camping trip together for some reason. There's no establishment of why. It's just a thing that's happening, and. It's like, oh, I'm making a movie for my school project. And so they just happen, oh, you just happen to have okay, fine. There are parts of the found footage stuff that I really enjoyed, and this will be a big shocker to you. It's the points where the found footage movie becomes very much a found footage slasher movie.
We are so predictable.
Yeah, there are a couple of moments in this movie where that dude in a creepy mask just kind of appears and then disappears.
Oh yeah, there were a couple of those that got me.
Casual shot, like especially in some of the pursuit sections. Like I don't remember the specific names, but there's a sequence about halfway through the film where two of the female characters finally get out of the one building they're in. It's the one where the one girl ends up in the pit full of corpses. But there are moments there where she's trying to get the other girl to run with her, and then occasionally the GoPro on her head will turn as she's looking back, and the dude's just doing that slow walk slasher stroll, but somehow keeping up with them just fine. And it's just a quick pan and pan back, so you get it. I thought that was really effective. There are a couple of moments where they really fucked with me in the sense of like, I thought something was going to happen, and they were very deliberately making me think something was going to happen, and then nothing did. The big one that's coming to mind is towards the end when they finally get to the house where the English-speaking lady is, and she sends the one girl up to the bathroom to wash up, and there's this constant motion of the camera looking down at the sink and then back up into the mirror and down, and you're just, sooner or later something's going to happen, and then it just never happens, and they go away from it. And I was like, come on.
Or when she's walking down the stairs afterwards and you expect to see in the mirror somebody behind her or coming around that corner.
Yeah, so many things they could have done that they didn't do that I was like, guys, you had perfect opportunity to. But interestingly, I thought the framing story with the cops trying to solve this crime was the least interesting part of this whole thing. First of all, the idea that all of these girls who all had the same therapist all went missing over a span of several years and nobody noticed or put it together. Look, I'm willing to believe a lot of things, but these might be the shittiest cops I have ever seen in my life. They're terrible cops. The characters, but first of all, this Jane person clearly does not have the emotional temperament to be a police officer. That's not a comment on anything other than her specifically. Please don't take that as any kind of stereotype. If you haven't seen the movie, she's absolutely histrionic for half of the movie. It's like, lady, you can't be a cop if you're look, I can't be a cop either for several reasons, but one of them is I have no emotional control at all.
Well, that's just because she's a lady. Ladies can't control their emotions. So it's
that's exactly
super realistic. I
know. Stop it.
I know. That was sarcasm for those sitting at home. Definite sarcasm.
But then also just like, like none of it ever really dovetails together really nicely. It's very ham-fisted. It's not well written at all. I should say it's not written in a way that drew me in at all. Well written is a matter of perspective. Some people, again, will really enjoy this movie because we've seen that from the reviews on the website. But yeah, it was a real struggle to get through this one. Like I said, I had to start watching through it like 4 times. I did finally make it all the way through. I'm certain there's a third of the plot that I still don't completely understand. But the other thing is, like, if I was supposed to be surprised by any of what, like, first of all, the movie is called Therapy. And then it turns out this girl had a therapist. Oh, well, he's probably the killer. Also, please, I would love to be able to talk to the fella who made this movie, because I want to know how much of the reason this movie exists at all is just because he got a kick out of I wonder if the title of this movie at some point was originally Psychotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
Get it? Because
Yep.
he's a therapist, but he's a psycho. He's a psychotherapist. It's so fucking dumb. It was obvious and ham-fisted, and it didn't work for me at all.
Yeah, there were a lot of points where I thought something cool was going to happen, like you said.
And then
like,
it didn't.
Yeah, and the reveal that the crazy woman that they interviewed earlier was in on it, like, I thought that was kind of neat, but then they lose me at the end where she's like, I'll get away with this, and it's like, you already sent the video to the police. We know you're involved. They're going to find that
Right.
video. It's not like just contain. So everything that I was like, this is a kind of cool reveal of trying to figure out who done it, every single thing just fell apart, and that was definitely the biggest one. One tiny thing they did that I like was when they were doing the found footage with the flashlight, they put the captions off to the side so that
really
the
did like that,
little
yeah.
bit that we could see was not obstructed by
Yeah.
a little bit of captions, and I just think we need to see that more. So I
Yeah.
was like, this is not a good movie, but I really appreciate the consideration that they
Yeah.
put into with that for us
And-
non-French speaking people.
And in some of those, first of all, I almost forgot, but you mentioned early on that you were like, they don't even really address like how the police are getting these videos. Yeah, they absolutely do. They found all the videos. They have that little interview right at the beginning after the opening section where there's that guy who's like, yeah, my dog ran off into the woods, and we went into this house, and I found this box with these cameras and these videotapes.
I forgot about that part altogether.
Right?
I
Oh, well,
forgot there was an
that's-
entire beginning scene.
Yeah,
and the
that's
reason they're getting
understandable.
bit by bit is because they're like decoding them.
they're fixing,
something.
like, the tapes are damaged
I
or
could
whatever
not
in there. Yeah.
remember.
No,
I
that's
was like, are
perfectly
you just getting these?
understandable.
Are you finding them in chronological order?
Yeah,
Are
how
these
can-
labeled
Yeah,
so you're
that's
getting
another
them in
thing. It's like,
chronological?
how convenient that, because that was the idea. The gimmick is the tapes are all supposed to be damaged or whatever, right? And they're kind of trying to recover them off of this digital media. And it's like, oh, you just happen to recover them in perfect chronological order to tell this story? Come on, man. Also, that there's that opening sequence where it implies that the killer is videotaping his murders, and then he never runs a camera again for the rest of the movie. The cameras we see for the rest of the movie are the cameras that the victims brought with them.
Well, apparently he only kept his own footage, and he went to destroy the victim's footage, but accidentally got one of his tapes mixed up in theirs, and he didn't mean to destroy one from his personal collection, right? That's
Right, sure.
And when the cops went to watch it, they clearly started with the oldest tape. So it makes perfect sense.
I guess I also was gonna say, like you mentioned, there are ideas here where I was like, oh man, you could have done something more with that. I did the pit of corpses. I thought was really well handled. How she ends up down in this weird room, and then because she's got that flashlight with her GoPro, they kind of slowly reveal there's all these corpses, and then it turns out the one is not actually dead, but then they just
I
leave
loved her stare,
Yeah,
though.
it was-
Ooh.
Yeah, no, it was. I really liked that moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then she just leaves the pit, and we never go back to the pit at all.
Yep.
There's this weird side plot about the female cop and her husband that just never goes anywhere. It just happens. Like I said, a lot of people on the website in the reviews described this movie as a mess, and in the most respectful way possible, I have to agree. This movie is, it's very difficult to follow and makes it impossible to get drawn into.
Yep. Nope. There were a lot of things that, like you said, I thought were going to be good, and all the good parts of this movie, there was just so much that I disliked that it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Well, I
It was
guess
very
that's
boring.
enough flagellation for the very French film. It interestingly wasn't even like I was expecting it to be a little bit more along with this sort of like, what do they call it? The new French extremity or whatever.
I was,
I
yes,
thought
French extremes or something. I also
Yeah.
expected that because of like Martyrs and
Yeah,
think High
or like
Tension.
even like High Tension.
Yep.
Yeah, like a movie like that. But this was surprisingly tame in a lot of ways.
yeah, the French go hard. So I was also surprised because
Right.
I went into this being like, ooh, French horror. French horror is like another level. And this was another level, but in the wrong direction. This was a
That-
basement. I expected a high rise.
That's a fantastic summary, Michelle. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well done.
This was the least fun I've had with therapy. And
that's a
I
good
do
way of
not want
putting it.
another session. This
Fair
was bad.
enough. So that's the movie for this week, guys. Like I said, so what are the movies, Michelle, that we are going to be releasing, or that are going to be the new movies coming up later in January?
Wish I had written them down. We'll just go with Chucky
I can probably get them here
7,
pretty quickly.
and there's going to be a new Resident Evil. I have no idea. I'm just making things up because I don't remember.
Oh, wow. You didn't even put them on the spreadsheet yet, Michelle.
I haven't yet, no, because I was too busy panicking about what are we going to do that I was not very organized yet.
Well, I mean, yeah, you probably could just, scroll up in the chat and find where they are. Next week, unless somebody contacts us with a suggestion of something they would like us to check out, next week, Michelle, what are we talking about?
Shrew's Nest, and I hope it is about an actual shrew because I like shrews. They are cute. They have long, funny noses, and I am looking forward to watching a National Geographic documentary on one of our horror days.
That's what we're watching is Shrew's Nest. By the way, I did find the schedule. So Shrew's Nest will be dropping at midnight on Friday the 13th. Ooh, I just noticed that's going to be a Friday the 13th. Ooh. And then dropping on Shudder on the 19th of January is a film called Sorry About the Demon, which I'm intrigued by that title, Sorry About the Demon. And then January, the next Thursday, the 26th, we get a movie called The Lair. And that's literally all I know about either one of them, is that their titles are Sorry About the Demon and The Lair. I'm pretty excited about it.
Sorry about the demon in the lair. They could have just made one movie. Done.
Right.
Hire me.
There's
I will help.
also a movie coming up. It's not an exclusive or original as far as I can tell, but it's a movie that I've been very excited about seeing, and it's going to be on Shudder here soon, called Dawn Breaks Behind the Eyes, that I have heard many, many good things about. I believe was just released last year, and so I'm super excited to see that one.
Awesome.
Yeah. We apparently have not still, after all this time, figured out how to end an episode, have we? Oh, you know what else we're doing next
we've got
week, Michelle?
one way.
You know what else we're doing next week?
Wrestling.
That's right. I almost
Wrestling.
forgot. Time Bomb Pro Wrestling presents the slightly delayed show. There's a name for it, and I totally forgot.
Hell
it was gonna
something.
It was gonna be called Holiday Hell, and now it's Holiday Hell because
Yep.
because Eric's clever. But yeah, if you're in the Fargo-Moorhead area, I believe there are still a very, very few general admission tickets available for Time Bomb Pro Wrestling at the Sanctuary Events Center next Thursday. We are going to be out there on hand supporting the event and enjoying a hell of a good time, and it would be cool if you guys came out and saw that too.
Yeah, I hope they have hot dogs again.
Yeah, they had hot dogs the one time, and then the next time there was no hot dogs, and man, I was really disappointed. I hope they understand that I'm coming with pockets full of dollars for hot dogs.
Oh, I'm coming with pockets full of hot dogs. I'm going to cut the middleman out, and I'll just be hawking down hot dogs in the bathroom stall.
That's probably
no
the
one
right
look
way
at
to do
me
it.
and my shame.
It's definitely the right way to do it. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. Remember to check us out on all the social medias. Shoot us an email or a message if you want us to talk about a movie you like. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.